The journal she never meant to share. Keanu Reeves was never the type to snoop. He believed in boundaries, in silence, in the quiet respect between friends, especially when it came to Ana de Armas.
At armas.
Their friendship had grown slowly, like a tree, reaching for the light, firm roots, delicate branches. It wasn't loud. It was steady, real, and he treasured it. They were shooting a film together in a quiet European village, the kind of place where cobblestone paths met lavender fields, and time seemed to move slower. Long shooting days were followed by silent walks, quiet dinners, and deep, meaningful moments that didn't always need words. One rainy evening, Keanu was alone in the cottage they were using as their base. Ana had left early in the morning to meet the director about a costume change. She'd asked him to lock up after himself if he left before her. But she hadn't mentioned the leather-bound notebook lying on the old wooden table near the window. At first, Keanu thought it was part of the script, maybe a prop. But when he picked it up, the texture felt too real, aged, used. The pages inside were not typed lines of dialogue. They were filled with soft handwriting, words pressed deep into the paper. Like each letter had carried weight, he hesitated then. Without really deciding to, he opened it. The first line stopped his breath. I pretend to be okay around them all. The truth is, I'm tired. I smile because I don't want anyone to ask me what's wrong. Keanu felt like he had crossed a line, but something inside him told him this wasn't just a mistake. It was a door that had opened for a reason. The journal was filled with entries dating back to years. Ana's thoughts were raw, personal, and painfully honest. She wrote about her fears of not being good enough, how she sometimes cried in the shower before shoots, how people told her she was lucky, beautiful, famous, and how none of that ever touched the loneliness she carried in her heart. She wrote about being away from home, about missing her mother's voice, the smell of Cuban coffee, the way her father hummed to himself while reading the paper. But what tore Keanu's heart the most was one particular entry. I met someone on set today. I don't think he knows the light he carries. He walks into a room and makes the air feel softer. He talks gently, like he's always afraid to hurt someone with his words. His name is Keanu, and he makes me feel seen. Keanu's hand shook. He hadn't expected to read his name. He hadn't expected to find himself in the middle of her private world. He sat down, notebook still open, as the rain tapped gently against the windows. Outside, the clouds rolled over the hills. But inside him, a storm had started. He kept reading. Ana wrote about moments they had shared. Moments he thought were small, offering her his jacket during a cold evening shoot, listening to her quietly when she talked about her past. Standing beside her during a press conference when someone made an unkind comment. He probably doesn't remember any of it, but I do. I remember everything. Keanu covered his face with his hands. How often do we walk beside someone and not know they are bleeding inside? He thought he had known Ana, her bright laughter, her kind words, the way she always showed up with coffee for the crew. But now, through these pages, he saw the shadow behind her smile, the heaviness she carried with such grace, and then he read the last entry. Sometimes I wish someone would just sit beside me and not say anything, just be there. I think if Keanu ever knew all this, he'd understand. But maybe it's better. If he doesn't, people walk away when you show them your scars. He stared at those words for a long time, and he cried, not loud. Not broken, but the kind of tears that come when you finally see the truth, when someone's pain becomes real to you. It's not just as an idea, but as a weight they carry every single day. He didn't know how long he sat there when Ana returned. The sun had started to dip. She entered with a tired smile and a bag of warm pastries. Hey, she said gently. I got your favorite. Keanu looked up red-eyed, the journal still in his lap. Ana paused, her expression shifting. She recognized the notebook instantly, and her face went pale. You read it? She whispered. He stood slowly, walked toward her, and held out the journal. I didn't mean to, he said quietly. But I'm glad I did. She looked away, like she wanted to run, but he didn't let her. Thank you for trusting these pages, he continued. I know you never meant for anyone to read them, but I see you now. really see you. Her lips trembled. I didn't want pity, she said. It's not pity, he replied. It's respect. Silence filled the room, heavy, sacred then. He took a deep breath and added, You don't have to carry it alone anymore. Anna looked at him, eyes filled with something she had hidden for too long, the longing to be understood without explanation. He didn't hug her. He just sat beside her quietly, exactly the way she had wished for. And in that stillness, something beautiful began to heal. The weight she carried alone for too long. The next morning, the cottage was quiet, no rain. Just golden sunlight spilling through the windows, soft and warm, as if the world outside wanted to offer comfort. Keanu woke early. He didn't sleep much. Not because of guilt, but because something inside him had changed. The journal had opened a door in his heart, a door he didn't know existed. Now that it was open, he couldn't ignore what he'd seen inside. Anna was already up, sitting on the porch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her hair was messy, no makeup, just her, the way people rarely saw her, real, unguarded, a little fragile. He walked out slowly. Coffee, he asked. She nodded without a word. They sat together in silence, both holding warm mugs, watching the trees sway gently in the morning breeze. After a while, Anna spoke. Do you think I'm weak? He turned to her immediately. No, not even. Close. She didn't look convinced. Her fingers gripped the blanket tighter. People see me on the red carpet and think I have it all. But most nights I go home, sit in the dark, and wonder if I'm just pretending too well. Keanu nodded, taking in every word. I used to think that if I smiled enough, she continued, no one would ask questions, and it worked. Believed the smile. They didn't look deeper. He looked at her, his voice low. But I did. Anna looked up. I didn't know how to say anything, she whispered. You did, Keanu replied. You wrote it all down. It's maybe not for me. But those words, they were brave. She smiled. But it was the kind of smile that comes with tears behind it. They stayed like that for a while. Later that day, filming resumed. But something had shifted between them. It wasn't romance. It wasn't drama. It was something purer. A silent understanding. A bond built from honesty. On set, Anna was her usual self. Charming, focused, kind to everyone. But when she looked at Keanu, there was a softness in her eyes. A silent thank you. During a short break, they sat under a tree while the crew reset the lights. Anna handed him her phone. Press play, she said. He did. A voice memo played. It was her own voice. Quiet. Almost breaking. Today was hard. I smiled the whole day, but inside I wanted to scream. I feel like I'm disappearing in front of people who think they know me. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like to just disappear for real, to stop existing. Keanu stopped the recording. His hand trembled slightly. Anna looked away. I recorded that last year, she said softly. I never showed anyone. I thought if I kept it inside, it would go away. Didn't? He didn't know what to say, and maybe that was okay, because she didn't need answers. She needed someone to listen. That night, Keanu did something he hadn't done in years. He took out his own journal. It was small, worn, and hidden at the bottom of his bag. He opened it and began to write. I met someone who reminds me that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it whispers in the dark, through tears and silence. Anna showed me that. The next morning, he handed her his journal, page 7. He said Anna looked confused but nodded. Later, when he was on set, she opened it. Page 7 was a poem, to the ones who smile through storms. To the ones who break and still walk on, you are the quiet heroes. The ones who teach the rest of us how to keep going. Anna closed the journal gently. Tears filled her eyes. He hadn't just seen her. He had understood her. That evening, she stood in front of him, holding his journal close to her chest. No one's ever written about me like that. She said, maybe no one ever saw you clearly, he replied. They stood there, looking at each other, not as actors, not as co-stars, but as two people who had quietly held too much for too long. I think I'm ready, Anna whispered. For what? To stop hiding? Keanu nodded. Then I'll walk with you. Anna's smile was small, but it was real. Thank you. She said. He didn't reply. He just stood beside her like she always needed. And somehow in that quiet, everything began to change. The day her hand started shaking, a week passed. Each day, Keanu and Anna grew closer. Not in the way the world always imagined, but in the quiet, deeply human way that happens when one person sees another, truly sees them, and chooses to stay. But healing was not a straight road. Some mornings Anna woke with calm in her heart, her smile light and effortless. Other days, like today, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She stood in front of the makeup mirror in her trailer. Her fingers trembled as she tried to hold the eyeliner. 3 times it slipped from her grasp. Her breathing became shallow, and no matter how many deep breaths she took, it felt like her chest was closing in. Someone knocked on the door. Anna. 10 minutes, the assistant called. Okay, she answered, her voice barely steady. As the footsteps faded, her eyes filled with tears. Why today, she thought. Why now? The scene they were filming wasn't emotional. It was a simple walk and talk in a quiet street. No pressure, no spotlight. But get inside her. Something had cracked again. A voice from her past, sharp and cold, echoed in her mind. You'll never be enough. Pretty doesn't last. Talent isn't everything. She sat down, covered her face, and wept. Then she heard another knock. Softer, gentler. She didn't answer. The door opened. Slowly, it was Keanu. He didn't speak. He didn't ask. He simply stepped inside, closed the door behind him, and sat across from her. Anna wiped her tears quickly, embarrassed. Sorry, she whispered. I'm just tired. He shook his head. Don't apologize. She tried to laugh. You must be tired of this. Me falling apart. He leaned forward. No, he said firmly. Never. They sat in silence again. Outside, the crew waited. But inside, time slowed down. Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small. It was a folded piece of paper, old and worn. He handed it to her. What's this? Letter, he said. I wrote it to myself a long time ago, when I was at my lowest. She opened it slowly. The handwriting was messy, rushed, but the words were clear. You are allowed to hurt. You're allowed to be broken, but you are not allowed to give up. Not yet. Not today. Someday, someone will need your story. In us. Lips parted. She read it again and again. You wrote this? She asked. After my sister got sick, he replied. There were nights I couldn't breathe. So I wrote. It kept me going. Anna folded the paper and held it to her heart. Thank you, she whispered. Then she reached for her eyeliner again. Her hand still shook. But this time, she wasn't alone. Keanu reached out and gently steadied her wrist. She didn't resist. Together they finished her makeup, slowly, patiently, like a quiet ritual. Later on set, the director noticed something. Anna's eyes had a new depth. Not the kind that came from acting, the kind that came from living through something real. After the take, the director walked over. That was perfect, he said. What changed? Anna glanced at Keanu and smiled. I stopped acting, she said after the shoot wrapped. Anna and Keanu took a walk. They didn't talk about the scene. They didn't talk about the past. They just walked until they reached the old stone bridge. Behind the village, the sun was setting. Anna leaned on the railing and closed her eyes. When I was a child, she began, I used to watch sunsets like this with my dad. He told me the sun always comes back, even when you can't see it. Keanu nodded. He was right. Anna looked at him. I'm scared, she said softly, that this peace won't last. That one day all the darkness will come rushing back. He didn't try to fix her fear. Instead, he said, then I'll sit with you in the dark. Her eyes filled with tears again. But this time, they were warm. They weren't from fear. They were from feeling safe. Keanu didn't offer promises. He didn't offer solutions. Just presence. Just kindness. And sometimes, that's more powerful than. Any words? That night, she left her trailer door open. Just a small gesture. But to Keanu, it meant everything. She wasn't hiding anymore, and neither was he. The voice she forgot she had, the days grew warmer. The village, once quiet and still, now buzzed gently with life as spring deepened. Wildflowers lined the roads, children played in the distance. And for the first time in a long while, Ana de Armas began to feel something she hadn't dared hope for. She felt herself coming back. Not the actress. Not the public figure, just Ana. But recovery wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic. It came in soft, unexpected moments when she laughed without thinking. When she looked in the mirror and didn't flinch, when she sang under her breath while brushing her hair. Keanu noticed every one of those moments. He never pointed them out. He just smiled quietly. Honoring her without words, one afternoon the production team held a casual gathering in the village square. It was meant to be a break. From the routine, food, music, laughter, a chance to breathe. Keanu was already there when Ana arrived. She wore a simple dress, no makeup, hair tied loosely back, yet everyone turned when she walked in. Not because of beauty, because of presence. She glowed, not with glamour, but with truth. Keanu walked over to her, handing her a glass of lemonade. "You look lighter," he said. She smiled. "I feel lighter." As the evening went on, a local musician started playing a slow, soulful melody. People swayed gently to the music. A few danced in the fading sunlight. Ana watched something stirring inside her, a memory, back when she was 15. Before the auditions, before the fame, before the loneliness, she used to sing, not for an audience, not for a career. Just for joy. She had forgotten that part of herself. Until now. She closed her eyes, and softly, she began to hum. Keanu heard it first. He turned to her, surprised. "You sing?" she asked. She nodded shyly. "Used to," he smiled. To hear, she hesitated. Then she stood up, walked slowly toward the small platform where the musician played. He paused, watching her curiously. "May I?" she asked. The man handed her the microphone with a warm smile. The crowd quieted. Ana looked down at her hands. They weren't shaking. Not this time. She took a breath and began to sing. The melody was gentle, haunting, beautiful. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Her voice carried over the square. Like sunlight on water, fragile, yet powerful. Keanu watched in awe, not because she sang beautifully, but because she was finally free. When she finished, the square remained silent for a moment. Then, soft round of applause grew louder. But Ana didn't hear it. Her eyes were on Keanu. He stood there, hands in his pockets, smiling with his whole heart. Later, as they walked back toward the cottages, she looked up at the stars. "I forgot I could do that," she said. "What?" Keanu asked. "Feel proud of myself." He stopped walking. "You should be proud," he said. "You've done the hardest thing anyone can do." "What's that?" "Heal." She didn't reply. She just reached for his hand. Not out of romance, but out of trust, and he held it. Gently, they sat on a bench near the field, sky above them full of stars. Ana looked at Keanu. "Do you ever wonder why certain people come into your life when they do?" He nodded. "All the time." "I used to think I had to be strong alone," she whispered. "Now I know. Strength is letting someone see the parts you were told to hide." He squeezed her hand. "I saw them," he said, "and they were never weak." Silence, then she asked, "Do you still write?" He nodded. Double quotes. "Would you read something to me?" It hesitated, then reached into his coat and pulled out a folded page. His voice was quiet as he read. "Some souls don't arrive to fix you. They come to sit beside you while you remember how to fix yourself. And sometimes, that's all the saving you ever needed." Ana closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks again, but they didn't hurt. Anymore, they were soft, healing. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat there under the stars, two people who had found each other in silence and chosen to stay through the storm. The night the truth finally came out, night air was warm and still. Shooting had wrapped early. Most of the crew had gone into town to celebrate, but Anna and Keanu stayed behind. They didn't need noise. They didn't need crowds. They needed quiet. The cottage felt softer than usual. Maybe it was the candlelight flickering on the table. Maybe it was the way Anna moved through the room, steady, peaceful. Like someone who had stopped running from herself, Keanu was on the couch flipping through a worn paperback book. Anna stood by the window, sipping tea. Her hair was down. Silence between them felt gentle now, not heavy like before. "Do you remember the first day we met?" Anna asked. Keanu looked up. "On set, you mean?" She shook her head. "Before that? At the read-through? You sat beside me, but you didn't speak for almost an hour." He smiled faintly. "I didn't want to say something stupid." Anna turned to him, her voice quieter now. "You didn't have to say anything. You just being there made me feel safe." Keanu's chest tightened at those words. He closed the book. Anna walked over and sat across from him, folding her legs. Under her, like a child ready to tell a story she had never told. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Anything," he answered. She looked at her hands for a moment before speaking. "Last year, I almost quit acting." His eyes widened slightly. "I had signed on to a film. Big studio, big cast. I thought it was everything I ever wanted. But I was falling apart inside. The pressure, the comments, the fake smiles, it got too much." Keanu said nothing. He just listened. One night, she continued, "I was alone in my hotel room. I had turned off my phone. No one knew where I was. And for the first time, I didn't care." Her voice broke. "I sat on the edge of the bed and asked myself if anyone would really notice if I disappeared." Keanu's heart sank. Anna looked at him through teary eyes, and then, ... "I got a message from you." His brow furrowed. "I did. Just one line. Hope you're resting well today. You lit up the room yesterday." Keanu's breath caught. He remembered sending that. He didn't think it meant anything special, just something kind. Something he meant. "That message stopped me from doing something dangerous," she whispered. Tears fell freely now. "You didn't know what I was going through. You just cared. In your quiet, gentle way. And that changed everything for me." Keanu was frozen. He wanted to speak, but no words came. Anna reached out and took his hand. "You saved me that night," she said. "You didn't even know it, but you did." Keanu leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. His voice cracked. "I'm so glad you stayed." She closed her eyes. "Me too." For a long moment, neither moved. The candles flickered. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Then Keanu pulled away just slightly. "Can I tell you something now?" She nodded. "I used to think silence was enough. That being calm and quiet was the best way to help people. But you showed me that silence is only healing when it's paired with presence." Anna tilted her head. "You've always been present," she said softly. "Yes," he whispered. "But now, I want to be present with purpose. I want to show up, not just stand beside people, really see them, really let them see me." Anna smiled. "Then you're already doing it." They sat there in the quiet glow of the candlelight, hands still gently touching. Something had shifted. This wasn't just comfort anymore, it was connection, real, raw, and born from pain that had been shared, not hidden. Anna looked at him and said, "Maybe we were never meant to fix each other." Keanu nodded. Double quotes, "Maybe we were just meant to remind each other we were never broken." They both laughed softly at that, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't a laugh to cover pain. It was a laugh that meant healing had truly begun. The light they passed for Ward 2 months later. The film wrapped. The crew celebrated with a quiet dinner under string lights in the village square. The night was soft, warm, filled with laughter and gentle farewells. People toasted to hard work. 2 late nights, 2 friendships formed under the weight of a shared story. But Keanu and Anna sat quietly at the edge of the gathering. Not because they weren't. Happy because they were full. Full in a way that didn't need to be shouted. Anna looked up at the stars. It's the same stars that had watched over her during the hardest nights. But now, they felt different. not distant, not cold. Now they felt like witnesses, like quiet friends who had seen her at her lowest and were now seeing her rise. You know, she said softly, I think this film will be remembered not because of the story we acted, but because of the story we lived. Keanu looked at her. I agree. The next morning, the crew packed up, vans rolled out. Equipment was loaded. Anna stood at the edge of the field, suitcase by her side. Keanu approached with his usual calm presence, hands in his pockets, eyes thoughtful. Where to now? He asked. Madrid for a few days. She replied, then home. I need to see my family. He smiled. They'll be proud of you. She looked down, I think. I'm finally proud of me, too. There was a pause. Then she pulled out a small notebook, worn, familiar. I started writing again, she said. Not scripts, not lines. Just thoughts, feelings, like I used to before everything got loud. He took the notebook in his hands, running his fingers over the cover. Then, without a word, he reached into his bag and pulled out another one, smaller, darker. This one's for you, he said. She opened it. The first page read, May you never again silence the parts of you that ache to be seen. May your light never shrink for someone else's comfort. May you always remember your story matters. Anna's hand went to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes again. But these were different. These were not from pain. These were from gratitude, from healing, from love. Not romantic, but something maybe even deeper. A soul-level respect that asked for nothing and gave everything. Thank you, she whispered. Keanu nodded, his voice low. You reminded me who I really am. She reached for his hand, and you reminded me I never had to do it alone. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't need to, because the kind of connection they had wasn't limited by distance. It lived in memory, in letters written and never sent in. Now, quiet moments shared between hearts that had once been strangers. A few weeks later, Anna sat with her mother in Havana, the sea breeze brushing through the curtains. Her mother placed her hand gently over Anna's. You're different, she said. Anna smiled. I'm me. Across the world, Keanu was at a small bookshop in Los Angeles, signing a single copy of a self-published journal. It was titled, For Those Who Break Quietly and Still Rise. His phone buzzed. A message from Anna. A photo of her standing beside a group of young girls at a school in Cuba. She had donated books, shared her story, listened to theirs. Beneath the photo was a short message. They needed someone who had been through the dark. I told them I was never alone. I told them about you. Keanu stared at the screen and smiled. He replied, Tell them they are never alone, and to write it all down. The world needs their voice. Months passed, years even. Anna and Keanu remained friends. No headlines, no drama, just check-ins. Just kindness. They would sometimes send each other lines they'd written. Little reminders, pieces of themselves. Quiet encouragement passed like letters through a storm, and every time Anna felt doubt rise again, she would reach for her journal, read the words he had once written, and remember, he had seen her really. Seen her, and because of that, she had learned to see herself again. Asterisk, asterisk. He hadn't saved her. She hadn't saved him. They had simply stood beside each other, till they both remembered how to save themselves. Asterisk, asterisk. In the end, it wasn't about the journal he read by mistake. It was about what it revealed. Two hearts, quietly hurting two souls, learning to heal together.